know, there are great moments when everyone gets the chills and like it works, but that can also get old, and you don't want that just to be the thing where it goes louder, louder, faster, faster, wheedly, wheedly, wheedly. Hey, you know, we did it. You know, and you can't have every song be like that, and every jam be like that. And there are bands in this scene, you know, especially young bands. We were guilty of it as a young band. And it's a trap it's a trap that we fall into. You know, it's hard to avoid. You know, because it's easy, it's rewarding, and it feels good, and whatever. But you want to do something more than that, something more interesting. So knowing how, when, where, like exercising that taste and quality control. Again, a lot of it comes from experience. A lot of it just comes from listening, because, you know, it may come from, you know, from the drummer in the group who decides, hey, you know what, we've had enough of this, I'm taking it down. And he goes to halftime and bring the whole thing down. And those nights when there's a lot of telepathy going on and we're really on it, we're all there on the one and not on the 2 or the 4 or the next ball. We don't make those changes together spontaneously, you know. These guys arrange that stuff on the fly, and they've developed this technique.
Yeah, using the cues, that's how, when you talk about trying to make something not always the same jam, that's why we use those cues. Just so everyone's looking at it out of the corner of the eye, waiting for someone to go, okay, we've had enough of this. Let's slow it down.
Frank Zappa did a lot of that.
Yeah.
Just depending on that mood, he's like, you know,
yeah.
The whole band would do whatever.
Like this is reggae, you know.
Yeah.
No, this is reggae.
This is reggae.
This is reggae. I think that was funk. This is reggae, and then Scott was 2. He did 2 dreadlocks.
Double. Scott.
Okay. The whole band, when you hit, it goes like this, and the whole band just goes.
So cueing has a lot to do with forward motion, I feel.
I guess one of the questions I have related to this, do you talk about where you're going to, or does it just sort of evolve as you...
Some bands do, some bands don't. Sometimes, you know, like once every 3 or 4 shows, I'll write out an A section and a B section, a chord progression. The A section might consist of 8 bars or 8 chords, or however, and then we'll grind that A section, and then we'll move up to the B section, another series of chords, and we'll have it written out, and then we can solo over the changes or make a theme over the changes. So it's kind of sometimes a premeditated song that we wrote before the show, and we'll never play it again. So it's kind of like, and if it really works, then we'll, like say in the kitchen, it was made out of a Jimmy Stewart, what we call a Jimmy Stewart jam, and then we just listen back to the tapes and turn it into a tune. So it's just the simplicities of it and the turning itself into a song. But it was a jam at first.
But you don't really think of it as here's the chorus, and here's the verse, and here's the refrain.
That's when you're actually making it into a song. That's legit song. But when it's just a jam, anything could happen.
So now we don't talk about it at all. We have a cardinal rule of mode, and we just don't discuss this shit. And it's not, it really just because of how we operate and what works best for us. So we'll talk about, say, you know, we're going to start with Brent Black, and we need to end up at Tailspin. And we're going to leave Brent Black somewhere in this neighborhood, and I'll see you when we get there. And that's it. And that's all we talk about. And it's not like, and follow me because I'm going to do this, 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 and this. And when I go, that means we're in Tailspin or whatever, you know what I mean? So we can't do that. What I should say is that we've opted not to do that. You know, we've tried before. We started going down that road, and we found that it sounded too forced when we did that. And you know, one of the things that I loved about the Grateful Dead in their early days was they could seamlessly blend 2 songs together, and they would just be in this completely just insane jam coming out of Dark Star. Next thing you know, it's Cumberland. You had no idea where Cumberland started or Dark Star ended, but it worked. They had this going on. It was completely organic, and you know, it just makes everything in the world that much better. You know, when those moments happen, and then, you know, they kind of got to this point in, you know, the late 80s and early 90s when, you know, a song like Dark Star just fell apart and stopped. And then the drummer would count on Cumberland and they would start Cumberland. And it kind of, like all the magic went out of it for me because because they stopped doing that stuff, that spontaneous, seamless, organic improvisation. And that's what we focused on for years and years with Mo, is just doing it organically, doing it spontaneously, and making it up as we go along, and not talking about it, but like having like that magic happen. And, you know, it's something that, you know, sometimes it takes us, you know, it'll take us maybe twice as long as it would take Umphrey's to get from one song to the next. But I guess there's a reason or a method behind it that, you know, if we're going to go this organic route without discussing it, that it needs to be that way, as opposed to everybody follow me on the 1, 2, 3, 4, bang, and we've got it, and they're tight and good, and like they pull that off.
It's like every band has its own chemistry, and like that's their chemistry. So
Right.
all these components come together to create that. You really can't. That's you know, you're just as going babies, and it's, you're stuck with your brothers, and that's who you got, and that's where it starts. Your ideas are based on just who you are as musicians. Like we made that decision 5, 6 years ago to use cues and try to make it sound very natural, make it seem seamless and like very.
And they do it, and it sounds, and that's the beauty of it. They do the exact opposite, and we discussed it today, the exact opposite of what we do, but it sounds organic, it sounds natural, it doesn't sound forced.
Ways too.
And
go back to that.
yeah,
Both
and it's
bands have tendencies.
it's a good thing.
It sounds like the conversation is happening musically rather than verbally.
Yeah.
With Mo, it's musically. With Umphrey, it's also musically, but there's this visual, verbal, there's this extra communication element to it.
Kind of options out.
Right, and that's the thing. It probably gives them a lot more variety and you know, a lot more. There's probably a lot more activity, I guess, within that stuff. You know, it's just again just a different approach. Does anybody else have any guitar questions before we wrap this up?
Everyone play there.
What's your favorite mode?
My favorite mode? It's got to be hippie jam band mode. Mixolydian. That's it. You know, so it's basically a